July 2014 and Team Zambia set off for their 13th annual trip to Zambia to continue with their work in helping improvements in schools and education. As we land at Lusaka Airport, some have that familiar feeling that past the visa queues, we will be spending the next 10 days working with some of the most amazing, wonderful, committed and enthusiastic young people who are full of love and hope. Others, the new participants, have the feelings of the unexpected, maybe some anxiety and usually a whole lot of excitement for what's ahead. Kabwe is more or less in the centre of Zambia, a relatively large town with a growing number of schools, a hospital, range of shops, a football and rugby team and some faithful restaurants and bars that host us year on year. It is very much a developing area and change is slow to happen, although it is most certainly something in the air this year. In the busy town, which is alive with taxis, street sellers, markets and locals, roads are beginning to see tarmac. This is a huge development for the area, as the roads were previously covered in rubble and full of potholes. The pace at which the roadworks is happening is impressive and gives the indication that when Zambia has a plan and its mind set on getting something done, that's exactly what it does. If only the capacity for change was at the same pace in all aspects of life, especially education. This is Patrick and he's the District Commissioner in Kabwe in Zambia.
There are a number of challenges. One, as you may be aware, that there is a lot of technology taking place this time around, and we have the challenge of computers in these schools. Most of the schools are lacking, computers. So this is a challenge in terms of access to computers. We would want most of our pupils, to be computer literate. But I think we have this challenge. The other challenge is distance to most of the schools. You find that our pupils, our children, they cover long distances, say of about 5 kilometers to go to a particular school, and learn. By the time they are getting to that school, they are already tired, and so concentration isn't much. So as government, we are trying to see if we can build or construct schools at each and every point in these communities where these pupils are coming. The reading culture is not very good. Why? Because of, again, facilities such as books. We are looking forward to a time when each and every institution will have a library. So because of lack of such materials, books and so on and so forth, you find that instead of our children coming to know how to read right in grade 1, 2, 3, most of them, they start reading when they are in about grade 5, 6, 7. And so this actually is not good when you are talking about education, of course. As a nation, we'll make sure that we embrace all those people like our colleagues from Manchester as they come. We tell them more about this nation and what we have achieved so far. As you may be aware, this nation, from the time it gained independence, it has never experienced any wars. We've never. Most of the people where there are wars in these other nations, they run to Zambia to take refuge. So we are a blessed nation. And so you will see it yourselves, you, our colleagues who have come from Manchester. This is a gift.
Thank you.
To the friends who've come from Manchester, so that as they go back, they go and show it to the people in Manchester that Zambia is a beautiful nation and we are happy receiving visitors.
Education is the right of every child in Zambia. Schools provide a relatively balanced curriculum despite the constraints of resources. The Department of Education, known as the DEBS, encourages change in the curriculum to aim to ensure children have the opportunity to learn what is relevant to the modern world and its needs. The intentions are all there, so what's holding them back? Well, education is a right, and education is free. That is until you come to the end of primary school. Then all parents, regardless of their background circumstances, have to pay fees. The fees vary. About £60 a year is what I'm told. Can all parents afford this? Do all parents prioritise paying fees? No. So in many cases, mainly in the rural areas, children stop education and some don't even start, as parents think it's a waste of time starting if they can't see it through. That is a battle for the country and the schools. I met with the head teacher at Kalonga High School. She explained that in her school less than 50% of students had paid fees. The impact of this falls hard on schools, as the fees are there to help improvements within them. Government funding is restricted. In Kalonga, the head receives £3,000 a year for 2,000 pupils. That must pay for everything: electricity, water, resources, maintenance, wages. School fees should help, but payment of them is rare. So do they withdraw the school place for the student? No. They don't want to discourage or sacrifice the child's learning, so they carry on regardless and make use of what they have.
My name is Jane Mwaka. I'm the head teacher of Mwanshi Primary School.
How has your school benefited from being involved in this project?
Mwanshi has benefited a lot. We have a borehole in the school. We have plenty of water. Before, we used to pay for this water, and as a school that was quite a challenge. Now that we have a borehole in the school from this project, we are really happy and we are having good time using this water, which is free. We have also had the opportunity to travel to the UK and learn more about how our friends are living there. So it has been quite beneficial. Then we have had a school council in the school. The school council of children are able now to have their rights and make use of them, and even interact with other pupils on how they are supposed to conduct themselves through the school council. So with the coming of our partners from UK, we came up with this school council, and it has been quite beneficial. Then we have really learned a number of lessons from them, how they carry out their lessons in class, and that has been quite beneficial.
And how do students feel about the project? How do the pupils?
They're happy actually. Each time our partners come from UK, they're very happy. They're very happy, they want to learn more, they want to interact with them. It has been quite beneficial, and they look forward to having more of this interaction with our partners.
And how valuable are your visits to the UK?
They're quite valuable because really the two countries are quite different in the sense that one is developing, the other one is quite developed. And when you have these visits, you become so focused that you too one day you'll be as developed as they are, and you look forward to being like them and to come and share with others here that have not been there to the UK, how they are living and how they have managed and how they have come up to be where they are.
Just tell me a little bit about yourself first of all, Jerome.
As I've put, my name is Jerome, and I'm the cluster coordinator for Kawe Kapiri cluster.
And how has it benefited schools that have been involved in the partnership? How have they benefited?
There have been a lot of benefits in this partnership. For example, I can start with in the area of technology. The schools that are in the partnership, previously they didn't have anything. They didn't have in terms of ICTs. There was no internet. But your friends from Manchester brought in this technology, and each and every school now, especially those who have been there before, they have the facility, they have access to the internet. The other area, it is the feeding program. From all the schools in the cluster, they have been supported with the feeding program. That is in terms of farming and production, growing of vegetables. These we have used them to feed the orphans and vulnerable children that we have in schools. At the end of the day, we have more pupils being retained in school. We have less number of dropouts in schools. So this is a very good idea.
So going to have a chat with Sam, Jenna and Mike, who each have been on the trip for the last 3 years and come back every time. So you've all been coming back to Zambia for the last 3 years. What brings you back each time?
You build such great relationships with all the children in all of the schools and the staff. And
each new one you meet as well. Each time you meet the new children that you're going to work with, even if I've worked with sort of 6 different schools and 6 different, and probably 5 classes within each of those schools, and you meet different children every single time that love you being there and genuinely.
And that's so much fun, yeah. And the culture and the people over here are so beautiful and friendly. You know, they make you feel so welcome.
Yeah,
fabulous.
The appreciation you get from the schools for something that you're doing, you're putting in a lot of effort. And
something that feels quite small as well, like it's a small part of what we do back home, but for them it's a massive deal.
And the look on their faces as soon as you walk through the gates of the school, it's like they've won the lottery. They're just so, the look on their face is just amazing every single time.
And how have you seen the project develop over the few years that you've been coming?
I think one of the most positive ones was last year when Enid was explaining to us about how from the first year we'd came, they'd taken that away and not just kept it for themselves like many schools might do back home. They actually took it out to their cluster, to their district, and they shared it with everybody else, all the other schools in their area as well, because they wanted to share that good practice as well, and they thought it was a good idea. Yeah.
And what do you think is the most beneficial part of the trip?
Making a difference. I mean, I know we've been told that the schools that we are working with, one of the schools was very low down on the league tables, and now it's near enough one of the schools at the top. That's not down purely to us, but it obviously has made an impact in the past 12 years of this project. And the teacher training, I think, is really one of the most important things we do.
Before, if you had to say to somebody, you know, they're thinking about going but they're not sure, what would you say to them?
Without a doubt, you need to come here, experience this beautiful country. And especially if you're a teacher, it's what it's all about. It reminds you of why you went into teaching in the first place.
You could list off 20 positives as on a personal, just as a personal impact. Like there's obviously the wider thing that you're helping other people, but even just as a personal impact, which is obviously what most people relate to.
Yeah.
You can just list off. You've got the smile on the children's faces. You've got having an impact on children's learning. You've got teachers that are going to want to be working with you and have a massive thing. There's loads and loads of reasons just as personal things.
Is it what you've expected?
In terms of the experience, for me, it's partly what I expected, but also partly not what I expected. I think the friendliness of the people, the level of poverty being higher than obviously in the UK was kind of what I expected, but some of the moral issues and some of the issues ongoing in schools are, I think, a bigger shock to me and not what I expected at all.
For us. I think on the positive side though, the enthusiasm of the children has been more than you could ever expect from them, and they've been so positive and so enthusiastic and so respectful, even more than we expected.
And what surprised you the most?
I think what surprised me the most was the enthusiasm of the children. You know, every day you go into a new school with a complete new idea. It's different myself from the maths, the literacy that they used to being taught, and the enthusiasm in which they attack each lesson has just been much greater than I anticipated, really.
I think you've come home as well, and every day you go, oh, that's the best day ever, and then the next day you find yourself saying the same thing.
Yeah, but for a complete different reason. It's like every day Andrew and I walk home and we say, yeah, you know, the children with the first aid, they were really hands-on with this. But I think the way they've taken responsibility for each of their school, and we've now been able to set up the first aid teams within each school, they're taking responsibility for their children, their staff, you know, their heritage in a way, and I think that's really inspirational.
So, but the actual number of people with AIDS and HIV is increasing?
It is increasing. At the moment, as a nation, we are at 14.5.
14.5?
14.5.
Million?
No, 14.5 as a nation. Percentage? Yes, 14.5%.
Of the nation have AIDS or HIV?
Yes, of the nation having HIV, yes.
Wow, that's a large proportion.
It's a large population. We are trying to struggle and reduce it probably to 0, if it is possible. Or reduce it at least to a number acceptable, 3 or 4%.
And do you know the population of Zambia?
The population of Zambia, we are slightly over 13 million.
13 million. Okay. And is there anything, how do you see it moving forward? What do you think we could do better, or Zambia could do better
What we think you can do as you come, as for example Manchester donor, as you come you also put a complaint of HIV. So that in the schools you are visiting, there is also a program of HIV education. Because they can do mainstreaming, maybe before they start teaching, give it 5 minutes, talk about HIV, and then they continue teaching. That way we feel we'll be able to reduce the number.
And raise awareness.
And raise awareness.
What about alcohol and smoking?
That is another challenge to school boys and girls.
Right.
Yeah, because when they knock off, they may not have so many things to do. And so instead they go to drink.
Yeah.
And when they are drunk, it becomes a problem.
Yeah.
And then they are most likely, then they go for, going to look for girls, going to look for boys, and they are induced. As a result, they end up having HIV.
During this year's visit, Moshi, one of the partner schools, held a health day. This is a massive development and something new and original. Throughout the day, hosted by Restless Development, a charity that works in this field, there were several events going on, and our team organised sessions for pupils and the community about first aid, dental health, effects of drinking, HIV and AIDS. It was almost like a summer fete, with bouncy castles and horse riding activities, lots of music and dancing. I suppose the only difference was the grey tent, with queues of children outside, all looking slightly nervous, yet being proactive in their attitude about what they were about to do. The tent was a HIV testing tent. Children lined up, gave a blood sample, and within 10 minutes found out their negative test results. That is, 85 out of the 88 tested did. The other 3, 2 boys and 1 girl, aged 14, were given advice to attend a medical centre with their parents. They weren't told why, but the reason was they'd tested positive for HIV. Likely that they've caught this from their mothers. Back in the UK, the testing in schools would not happen. Identifying 3 students with positive results from such a small number tested would probably be unheard of and hard to believe if it did happen. But on that day it was a positive outcome. It meant these 3 students had the chance to get treatment and support for themselves and their families to hopefully go on to live as healthy lives as possible. On that day, their chances of survival had increased. The ZamBA team, which is made up of teachers from lots of different schools across Manchester, will continue to work with our ever-growing list of schools in Zambia. We need your help and your involvement. Please take time to think about what you've seen and what you've heard and support this cause. Thank you.
We are saying thank you so much for the work that you done, for the work that you done for us. May the good Lord bless you. May the good Lord bless you so much for the work that you done, for the work that you done for us. May the good Lord bless you. May the good Lord bless you so much.